Good morning. I hope I'm streaming now. Oh, there we go. Good morning. I'm Tanny Reed Walker. I am a counselor with FCSS in the Barons Rico Warner area. You can reach us at www.fcss.ca, where you can find lots of resources and support for any stage of life. So please feel free to go to that area. Today is June 22nd, 2020. We are into month 4 of our local area's COVID situation, and I'm here remotely talking to you about grief and loss and mourning and life transition. So this space is mostly dedicated to people who have lost a loved one through death. And I'm actually developing a video series for the future. Uh, let's hope that totally happens, where we're talking about grief and mourning through loss of relationship while the other person is still alive. So welcome to this space. Today we are going to talk about some of the old ideas, like recent old, and some newer ideas about grief and mourning. We're going to talk a bit about what most people have heard about, which is Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of mourning. And then I'm going to talk about Dr. Alan Wolfelt's 6 needs of mourning. Oh, thank you, Prisma. Good to see you. Hopefully the comments come through this time. Last time, as of this time, I'm outside, so I'm doing this through Wi-Fi. So if your comments don't come through right away, I'm very sorry about that. Also, if you wish to email me any ideas, questions, concerns, I would so appreciate that. You can message me here on Facebook through Messenger. You can also find me on www.fcss.ca in the counselor section. And I will do my best to remember to put my email address in the comment section below. So, yesterday was Father's Day, so anyone who was grieving and mourning the loss of their father yesterday, my thoughts were definitely with you and my prayers, and they still are today. All of the significant holidays are impactful on our hearts, because while we're celebrating some amazing people that are still here, we're also celebrating and mourning the loss of some amazing people who have passed on. And then there's also complications with some of the relationships with people who have passed on that we may regret not being able to change or live differently. And I hope that you found and are finding ways to process that and come to a place of some peace. And if you haven't or you need support with that, again, you can look through FCSS, and there's multiple ways of getting assistance with that. So, I started really looking into grief when I was still in school for social work. And I was fortunate enough to actually have a practicum with this agency, and I really loved this agency, and I still do. We are really fortunate that we get to support people at no charge to them directly. We're funded through provincial and municipal government money, so that's super handy. But the other thing that I learned about and really fell for when I was doing this was actually grief work, because in my mind, everyone has had grief and loss, and grief and mourning through loss from death is uncomfortable. It's hard to talk about. Lots of people are carrying these really big emotions and they don't know what to do with them. And then myself, as a brand new beginning learning counselor, I wasn't sure how to deal with it. So I started searching. So this would have been about 16 years ago. Yeah, 16, 17 years ago. And the majority of the information I found out about was from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And most people who look into grief or have ideas about how grief works do know about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And if you don't know about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, you've probably heard about the 5 stages. So the 5 stages are denial. So that's like, this can't be happening. I don't know what's going on. Um, like, I just expect this loved one to show up all of a sudden. I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't believe they're not here. This isn't going on. I don't understand. And then the next stage in her thing is anger. So that's just being mad. You can be mad at God. You can be mad at the car accident. You can be mad at um, like the doctors. You can be mad at fire. You can be mad at all of the ways that people die. You can be just angry. You can be mad at the person who died. All of this anger bubbles up. The next stage is bargaining. So bargaining is, if I could go back in time and, okay, God, if I do this, you can bring the person back. Like, there's bargaining is very complicated. If I do this, then the pain's gonna go away. I promise, if like just if I that nobody will ever die again if I quit smoking. Like, there's all kinds of ways of bargaining. And then the next one that she talks about is depression. And so that's where you just don't feel like doing anything and you feel like you're never going to be happy or feel good about yourself again. You don't enjoy doing all of the stuff that you used to love doing, and you know what depression is. And then the last stage is acceptance. And that's accepting that the person has died and your life has changed and you're going to move on, so to speak. Well, that was what I had learned way back then, and it didn't sit well for what I think, like what I felt and what I had experienced of grief and what other people had seen. Oh, thank you, Prisma, for writing down what the 5 stages are. And I later found out that Elizabeth actually wrote that for people who are in the process of dying. And they weren't stages that you walk through in a lineal kind of way. It's not a path that you walk down. It's just a bunch of emotions and a bunch of feelings that are going to happen to you when you're facing death. And she wanted a way to explain what was going on for people and to kind of normalize it, because all of these feelings are normal and you will go through them. And you may come to a moment of acceptance for a while, but then you get mad again the next day or the next hour. She wasn't writing them as a manual for how to get through grief. And she wasn't writing them as a manual for people who have lost someone. She was writing it as a guide and an explanation for people who were in the process of losing their lives. So that was amazing to learn, because humans are really complicated. It's not like as you're aging and, first you're 0 and then you're 1 and then you're 2 and then you're 5 and then you're, I mean, obviously I'm skipping through, but it's not linear like that, and that's not how people learn, and that's not how we process our emotions. So I was confused, but it was the only kind of format that I could understand. And so I would try to use those things, and I would try to work through them and try to not look at them as a lineal situation. All of those things happen when you're dealing with grief and mourning. They aren't lineal, and they aren't the only things. So then I was looking for another framework because I was still really uncomfortable and awkward of how to work with people who are in the deep depths of emotion. How am I, as a counselor, supposed to fix them? How am I supposed to make it all better? Well, anybody who's going through grief knows that nobody can make it all better. It's just impossible. And so trying to make it all better does not feel good to me. Well, then I was very fortunate to see a speaker a few years into my roles with FCSS, and his name is Dr. Alan Wolfelt. And he has an amazing, amazing philosophy and framework that just resonated with me so, so well. Yeah, it is interesting to learn that it isn't linear, isn't it, Charisma? Yeah, it changes everything. I think it gives people more permission to feel all the feelings, because if you're successful and you're going through these feelings and all of a sudden you go backwards again, I don't know about you, but I personally would probably beat myself up a little bit and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going through this. I'm doing grief so poorly, and just judge and then add that extra stress, which isn't helpful for anyone. So thank you for that comment. Back to Dr. Alan Wolfelt. So his philosophy, and I might have talked to you about it before because I really, really enjoy him, and I've spent a lot of time learning his methods and stuff like that. So his philosophy is companioning people through grief. And even just the word companioning, doesn't that feel and sound so much nicer than I have to go fix my grief, or I have to fix what's wrong with me because I'm not doing really great right now, or I'm curled up in my bed with the covers over my head and I'm crying and I'm littered like Kleenex is all around me and I'm failing at this. That's not failing. That's not failing. Companioning is when you get to just be with somebody and kind of walk through their forest of misery, and you don't have to own their emotions. You just have to be there with them. And just learning that, oh, so relaxing. Learning about letting people tell you about their grief journey and how it is for them, and supporting that space for them. That changed everything for me. So, yeah, I became a bit of a Dr. Alan Wolfelt groupie. So, I highly recommend all of his work that I've come across. So, another part of that is the 6 needs for mourning. So, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross had the 5 stages, and Dr. Alan Wolfelt has the 6 needs for mourning. Now, they are listed because that's how we communicate, but it is by no means a thing that happens linear. It is a mess. Grief and mourning and rewiring your brain is messy, messy, messy business. And that's okay. It's beautiful. Have you seen string art? Have you seen that art where you just pour all these paints and just watch them blend, and it's messy and it comes out beautiful? Or where they do crayons and you blow dry them and the crayons just melt and they mingle. It's beautiful. So the process is painful and it's messy and it's not linear, but at the end, you can come out with something beautiful, and that beautiful thing is you. So the 6 needs of mourning are And for you people that like to have a list right away, are acknowledge the reality of the death, embrace the pain of the loss, remember the person who died, develop a new self identity, find or search for meaning, and receive ongoing support for others. I am going to take the next 6 sessions. Well, maybe not 6. Maybe I'll do, yeah, I'll do 2 a session. So the next 3 sessions, I will do 2 of each of the needs for mourning over the next, oh boy, math, 3 weeks. That was pretty basic math. So I'm going to go a little bit more in depth. But today I thought I would share a little tiny bit about what each of those means. And again, I'm going to remind you, this is not journeying down a path. Oh, thanks, Prisma. She's writing them down. This is not journeying down a path. This is journeying through a maze. So you're plopped down in the middle of the maze, and you're going to walk one way, and then you're going to walk another way, and then you're going to end up back at the same place you were before, and you're going to keep going around, and it's a journey. And it's not a straight linear journey. And the weather is going to change, and other things are going to happen during it. Storms are going to happen. Some days are going to be sunshiny. Some days are going to be sunshiny and beautiful, and then there's going to be a tornado. We do live in tornado area where I live. So the best thing through this whole journey is to really be kind to yourself. Be super compassionate. And if you're coming across people that aren't compassionate, try not to be around them for a while. I read somewhere that 1/3 of people will be unhelpful, 1/3 of people will be neutral. They're neither good nor bad for your journey, and 1/3 of people will be helpful. So when you're assessing whether a person is good or bad for your journey, search out that 1/3, and you'll be surprised who that 1/3 is, which is something we'll probably end up talking about another Monday morning. But back to today's. So, acknowledge the reality of the death. This is a process that doesn't just happen at the funeral. The funeral is big. Viewing the body is big. Those are all parts of things that we do as human beings and have all through time. But acknowledging the reality can happen at celebrations. The acknowledgement of the reality can happen when you're driving down the road. The acknowledgement can happen in the middle of the night. It's going to happen a lot. So this is something that is not lineal because it'll come up all through your life. Embrace the pain of the loss. Embrace the pain of the death. Our society likes to push it away and move forward and give each other really great statements on how to buck up, which I'll talk about more next week. No, this sucks and it's painful and you're going to get through it, but only by embracing that pain. Number 3, remember the person who died. I hear so often people are like, you should put away their clothes. Why do you have pictures of them all over the place? You're just making this hurt more. You can't make it hurt more. It hurts. And lots of times, having those memories, the fact that they existed, is really important. Develop a new self-identity. What does that mean? Well, When your loved one died, you might have lost a title. You might have lost husband, wife, daughter, son, niece, nephew, best friend, frenemy, aunt, uncle, cousin, grandparent, granddaughter, grandson. I could just go on and on. And there's other littler ones. But we'll talk about that. So when you're trying to create a new self-identity, you're learning how to do new things. You're learning how to exist in this world without that idea of who you are. Excuse me. So it's trying to figure out new ideas. You may struggle with what your job is, what you thought your job should be. You're going to learn things about yourself that you had no idea. So it's developing a new self-identity. Number 5 is a search for meaning. The big question, why? Why did this happen? Why did that person have to go? And really, why did this happen to me? Why am I still here without my loved one? That's a big question. And there's a search for that. And 6 is receive ongoing support from others. Which, if I was a little bit more of a linear thinker of myself, I would have talked about the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. But here's a good place to bring up the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 of people are going to be really unhelpful, and they are going to add that pain onto your grief that you don't need. It's toxic. Keep away from them. Then there's going to be the 1/3 that are neutral. They don't add or subtract anything to your world. I don't really know how much time you need to spend with those people either. You know what I mean? You're going to search out that 1/3. That 1/3 that reach out to you and can companion you through your grief. And if you can't find anyone and there is no 1/3, please reach out for help. If you know anybody who is in that situation, send them these videos, invite them to this group, these people, this community. Please get some help. There is help out there, and you deserve it. So that's what is going to happen over the next couple of weeks. We will be talking about Alan Wolfelt's Need for Mourning. If anybody wants to talk more about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's additions to those, because her conversation is important, I just really want people to know that we aren't doing this in a lineal matter. So I also would like to recommend The Journey Through Grief, Reflections of Healing by Dr. Alan Wolfelt. You can order it on his website. So you just Google the Center for Loss and Transition. He's in Colorado. Lots of his books are also on Amazon. You probably can get a hold of them through Indigo. There's lots of options to look for. And if you need me to look for it, I could probably do that for you as well. Again, the book is called Journey Through Grief, Reflections of Healing. So that is what I have for today. You are not doing this wrong. Your feelings are super valid. This time feels crazy, and it is. It is crazy. And if you feel like your mind is going crazy, it is going crazy. It's trying to figure out all the things. So if you're tired or overwhelmed or cranky, or any of the things that don't feel normal to you, it's okay. You're totally, totally allowed, and you totally, totally need to be doing that. If you're having a happy moment, say example yesterday where you're celebrating lots of good things and you get hit by a big, giant ball of grief, just bangs you. That's okay. That's a grief burst. I also have heard it called a love burst because that's what grief is. Have you ever looked at somebody so much and you just love them so much? It just, oh, you can't even. It's the same way with grief. You're having a great time and you just get slammed by that. It's because your heart's saying, hey, somebody's not here. You're like, I know. And I love them. So it's okay. It's okay to experience those things. And you're not insane. You are a little bit crazy, but that's totally to be expected. Counselors are not supposed to say you're crazy. It doesn't mean that there's a flaw in you or you're wrecked. It just means that things are upside down and inside out, and that is normal. That is so normal. That is my message for today. Please remember, your path is not linear. You're kind of dumped in this weird maze. And once in a while, the light's going to shine through, and sometimes the storms are going to hit. But we intrinsically have the tools to go through this. The crying, our brains can think things, our feeling, our connection with other people. We're really lucky we have the ability to connect through the internet if our community is not supportive. Please, 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 please get support. And remember that you are super valid. So that concludes today's Monday Morning with Tanny. Thank you very much for those who have watched, those that will watch. Please share. Please share this video on your Facebook feed. Please share specifically through Messenger with people. And please like it. Let us know you're watching. Please comment. I actually go back and I check through the comments to see if anybody has anything that they want to say or add. And if anybody has any ways that are special to them for how they mourn and how they remember and how they do the things that they're doing, I appreciate it if you would share and give me permission to share too. We're all going to go through all of these things, and let's do it together. Thank you.